And welcome, one and all. Episode 75. Support your local gunfighter. For those of you who know, you know. We got
Fire in the hole.
we got Mr. Forrest Harris with us tonight from Knuckleduster Games, and he's got all kinds of great stuff to talk about, and we'll dive into that here shortly. But the very first thing I want to mention, and Tiger Shadow came in early to mention it for us. He came in at 726. 200 subscribers, very well deserved. Thank you, sir. Yes, we hit 200. We're actually at 201. We gained another one in the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So we're at 201. So be on the lookout. I'm going to be posting a video that is going to talk about our giveaway. I've talked to y'all about it before, but let's go ahead and cover it again. It's going to be a Chronicles of Not J t-shirt in your choice of size. It's going to be some of these wonderful 1/6000 scale World War II ships that I have printed and painted. I'll even send you a copy of the working copy of my World War II naval combat game, Ocean Thunder, along with the ship information sheets needed to play the game for the ships that I'm going to be sending you. And who knows what else I'm going to throw in. We'll have to see. So let's go ahead and just run through some more of these comments real quick. Chuck comes in and says, yes, well done, sir. Thank you, Chuck. Tiger Shadow back at saying, it's going to be a rip-roaring good show today. I can feel it in the saddle sores. The only horses I ever rode were the beach horses at the Mexican Tours Resort, Rosarito Beach, Baja, California, Mexico. The lousy horses are always trying to reach back and bite you. They just want to get a little taste. That's all. Got Hissy Cat Studio coming in. Says, hello, everyone. 201 and upwards. There we go. Our buddy Reese in the house. Hey, y'all. Chuck says, yep, 500, then $1,000 right around the corner. We can only hope, Chuck. Maybe we have hit that spot where it just starts to grow upon itself. We'll see. His cat comes in and says, if it was only that easy. Yeah, if it was only that easy. Says, I'm at 243 and I've had 30 unsubs. It takes time. Yeah. I would have been at 20, or I'd have been at 200 a lot longer ago if it weren't for those constant unsubs. But you know what? If this is not what they signed up for, then let them go. It doesn't bother me. Reese says pretty soon it'll be the Not J Wargaming Network with 5 channels, possibly. His cat says LOL. His cat then says, yeah, right, it could happen. Why not? Yeah, why not? Add a Patreon and a paywall area, and he's got a full-time job. Yeah, well, I got to figure out what that would be. True that. Bunkhouse says, everyone, evening, everyone. Kenneth Seidenblad, howdy, y'all. Howdy to you too, sir. I forgot. Tiger Shadow was on 11 hours earlier. I saw it. I say great work for the 200. Thank you. And Tiger Shadow, I forgot, laughing thumbs up. And we have Marilyn Ramirez with an elbow cough. So here we go. So tell us what's new and exciting.
Well, the Kickstarter is just about to fulfill. We're waiting for what probably amounts to about 3 to 4 boxes of stuff. And what's in those 3 to 4 boxes is just the last of what we need. We have the plastic figures, which are actually being produced right now. They're just not in our hands yet. We have the expansion boards for the do-it-yourself board kit, and we have the expansion cards for the expansion characters. So you have 12 gunfighters in the game, and there's 9 more characters that are expansion characters, and they were in the stretch goals, etc. But they each have a card We have all the figures. We just need the darn cards. So we're waiting for the cards and the boards, and then also the plastic inserts. Now they are in production right now. They were delayed by 3 months because of the rolling lockdowns in China.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably the last project I will do in China. I'm not going to quote myself on that, but hold myself to that. But it might very well be because, as more companies come online in the U.S., this is going to be a lot easier to cope with. So anyway, they had these. The only method they have to handle this illness is lockdowns because their vaccine is so ineffective, and they so that shut us down for 3 months. The factory making this stuff wasn't reporting to work for 3 months. But now it's rolling again, and the word on the street is it should be shipped here in July. It's going to be air freighted. The remaining items will not have to go by ship, so we will not have that delay. So I have every expectation that in August we will be shipping stuff to backers. So that's the Kickstarter front.
All right. So we're close.
We are very close.
It's all dependent on when we get the air freight stuff, right?
Yes. Hold on just a second. I have a little show and tell after all.
All right.
I was lamenting that I had come home from the shop and forgot to bring stuff for show and tell, but I do have, like this. This is the game.
Hey.
Let me preview these components a little bit. Let me show you the features. That's the wrong podcast. Some of your viewers will be familiar with Jorg Sprav, the crossbow guy. All right. So we have the board. Here we go. We have the board. It's in a matte finish, which I preferred because the glossy shine was sort of distracting. So they're matte. The color registration, my fluorescent lights aren't helping much, but the color registration was exactly what we sent them. It was just perfect.
Outstanding.
And this is a block of cards. These are all the various cards in the game, and these are the cheat sheet cards. They're not cheat sheets, they're cheat cards. They're two-sided.
Right.
Yep. You played it, you know. And then we have dice. We have the punch boards. Let's see. This punch board is still in. I was going to give you. So I'll kind of do a. You can vicariously punch the punch board with me here. So we have the dashboard for each character. There's 6 of these. 6 of these punch boards. We have. The game comes standard with chits. So in your local hobby shop or game store, they will have the option of selling it with chits for a lower price and then adding on figures, the figures being in little packs like you'd see in Wings of Glory or Sails of Glory.
Yeah.
So you'll have the basic game, but then you'll have characters you can add on. Yeah, this is the Lone Rider of Eternity, if you're familiar with. Oh, look, I got paint on my fingers. That proves I'm a real gamer. And guess what nationality I was painting?
Prussians.
French. Close. Yeah.
Same time frame, right?
Same time frame. Yep. So, yeah, we've got these. Now, these are now, what's really cool here is the thickness of this. I was really surprised. So we've got absolutely no flex whatsoever in these poker chips. They are sound as a pound, as they say, buddies overseas. It is. I don't know if you can hear
Yeah, that actually sounds pretty good.
It sounds like a poker chip, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Hey, let's just go nuts here. Woohoo! Let's punch this thing out. All right, there we go. So there's 6 punch sheets. And dry erase markers. And there's a funny story. Anybody who's been following the Kickstarter knows this story already. Hold on. Hope I didn't blind you with the top of my head there. This is the
We'll fix it
reason.
in post.
There you go. Fix it in the mix, man. This is the reason that the game sat on a dock in China for months before they got shipped. It's because these are liquids. The dry erase markers.
Oh, good
They
lord.
count as liquids. They had to be inspected by the authorities.
Uh,
So those got held up. Yeah. So that's what's in the box. Oh no, there's more stuff. There's more stuff. It's a value at twice the price. They have the rule book, and the rule book is Tim Tulan from down there in your neck of the woods. I can't say enough good things about Tim Tulan. He is a fantastic designer. If you're familiar with Tim's work, Tim works for a lot of companies. He's a full-time graphic designer, super nice guy. And Tim does, if you've been to Adepticon, he does most of the graphic design and stuff for their, well, like for instance, he did every year he designs their logo, and when you see the big banners and things, yeah, he does all that stuff. And he's a great illustrator and artist as well. You don't see as much of that work. I wasn't aware he did all that until he started working on a project with me. So anyway, he designed, like for instance, all this stuff. He designed the box. He designed all the layout for the front and back, and also created things like see this wood paneling background.
yeah.
It's probably easier to see. Yeah, here we go. It's easier to see on the rule book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is all from scratch. That's all his original artwork.
Wow, that looks great.
So anyway, it's also, I want to shout out to Sam Sedgy. And if you probably have seen Sam at conventions, if you've been to Gen Con or to Adepticon, Games and Gears that make these really high quality paintbrushes.
Yeah.
Sam is Games and Gears, and Sam has factories in Hong Kong, and I really owe a huge debt of gratitude for him for pushing this thing through. I mean, he really helped me out a lot, especially with shipping. And I've been bitching and moaning here, but it's really not fair for me to be doing that because I've gotten a lot of good help. If I had gone through one of the I won't mention any names, but the big companies, the really big board game making companies, that they're essentially brokers between here and the Chinese factories. And I would have paid probably 3 times as much in shipping. I probably would have paid more than the value of the product itself just in shipping.
Wow.
And as it was,
ridiculous.
He brought this thing in. He landed this baby. So big shout out to Sam. Yeah. And he produces very good quality stuff. So
outstanding.
Anyway, as you can tell. I got another show and tell item. Hold on right there on the other side of the room here.
While we're waiting, Chris Long says hello all. That's awesome news. And Todd is watching. He says howdy partners. So
howdy.
Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I just I took the liberty of starting to paint these guys. Lighting's not the best. I wasn't planning on a miniature studio here. Here we go. Adapt and overcome. Here, there we are. So this is, little dude is the gambler.
Very nice, yeah.
And then this is the loose cannon. There we go. I used oil paints on him.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That was a lot of fun. It's such a luxury when you use oil paints, not have to worry about drying time during blending and all that.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. So these are the metal ones. I think the metal versions are probably going to be the most fulfilling to paint because the metal has a really good tooth,
Yeah.
when you prime it up. And the advantage of the plastic figures is that you can just store them in the box. You don't have to worry about chipping paint or anything like that. And you can take it, it's portable, take it around to your buddies' houses for game night and everything.
Yeah. Very cool. Very, very cool. So Todd also says that looks great.
Thank you.
Cat says nice minis.
Thanks.
And any STL. Well, so you bring this up.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily STLs for these minis, but Harris was telling me, or Forrest, Mr. Harris, Forrest was telling me that he was looking to be adding the STLs to his line. So if you want to dive in and give a little more information about that.
Yeah. So it's not out of the question that these might show up in STL form at some point. I mean, especially as we expand the game, and especially as we start to develop accessories and things, and expansion characters. Yeah, it's not out of the question. In Gunfighter's Ball, we'll definitely be offering some stuff for the first time in STL. Not our core characters, but things like animals, terrain accessories. We have some bison that you will see if you look at the Knuckleduster Facebook page, and those bison are going to be released in dual formats. They'll come out as STLs, and at the same time they'll come out as plastic castings. And the plastic cast bison, you'll assemble them. You have to put the head on because of the way casting works. The horns can't be in the same plane as the body of the figure. But in STL, you'll just be able to print them up in one piece. So there'll be people who prefer, there's still people who don't have printers or don't have buddies with printers. And so they will be able to get a manufactured figure. And then some of our big bulky things like longhorn cattle, things you need hordes of, that's you'll probably see STLs of those fairly soon. There is, we have game accessories that we can put out for fun sometimes. Like we have the D3 that we gave away at Paint All the Minis convention online, and I'm sure I'll be posting that as well. It's a die with it's a 3-sider, 112233, and it's got bullet holes for the pips. So that'll be hey, there you go, thanks. So there is what a cast bison will look like, and with the head attached, that'll be a printable STL. There they are, American bison.
Now you said that they are 28 millimeter, but you told me that at the hump they're like 30 millimeters.
30 millimeter at the hump, yeah, bison. So as you know, 28 millimeter figures are no longer 28 millimeter. 28 millimeter figures are more like 30 millimeter at eye level.
Yeah,
and like 33 to the top of the head, but they're still called 28s. And these are 30 millimeters at the hump, and remember that includes the base. So that means the actual figure is more like 28 to 29 millimeters at the hump. And of course, a real bison is way bigger than you think it is, which is why you should never climb the fence and try to pet one like a lot of people do.
No.
Because they're wild animals and they're large, very large.
Don't go pet the shaggy cows.
Yeah. No, they're not. They're not cows.
They will ruin you.
Yes.
So,
yeah. I mean, a cow will slam you up against a gate or a fence and crush you, knock the wind out of you, but a bison will
tear you up,
stick a horn all the way through you.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hizzy Cat says, for what it's worth, I'm at the point I almost only buy STLs.
Yeah,
And this is cool dice. Todd says, hey, not Jay, you're at 201 subs. Yes, I am. Warmutt comes in and says, hey, Forrest, awesome to see you. Gonna rewatch this dinner time. Bust out the fiddle. Reese says, bison are huge. Yes.
They are, yeah.
Had one at work for a while. Never trusted him. Yeah, you don't want to. Joy of Wargaming in the house. How you doing, John? Thanks for dropping by and taking a look and see what's going on. So, yeah,
Uh, so along the lines of the STLs, back on the topic of STLs, it's interesting. We're watching this really carefully, and as I say, the core figures probably never be available in STL. I mean, the core Gunfighters ball figures, our 150 Gunfighters we have.
sure.
That's not to say they won't be available in resin or in a plastic resembling resin, or that they won't be available through a vendor freshly printed.
Right.
But but new product lines. I'm looking for opportunities to bring new product lines to market using strictly STL. Um, so if the Weird West stuff will probably all be going STL, and I'll be adding to it, and because it's a lot of fun, and it's really
Sure.
fun to have the freedom to make something and boom, it's immediately available. You don't have to make molds and do all that.
Very cool. Now, you showed me just before we went on a blacksmith's
Oh yeah.
furnace. What do we got going with that?
Well, this
What's
is
happening with this?
yeah. So we got a bunch of terrain accessories that we're going to start releasing, and the way we're going to release them is like what I described with the bison. There's going to be at the same time the STLs became available, manufactured copies will become available. So they'll both be released at the same time. So all of our old customers that prefer to have things made ahead of time, they'll be able to buy them. And people who like to print stuff, they'll be able to print them. That particular set, it has a lot of gear to put in your blacksmith shop when you're doing your terrain. It's got that being the forge. It also has the bellows with the rack that has I don't know if here I didn't come prepared with images to show you.
That's
So
okay.
you take a wooden handle if you're living 120 years ago, and you pull down on it, and it's attached to a rack that has a pivot, and it has a chain going down to the bellows. And as you pump this, you're feeding air into your forge.
Right.
So that's within, so the blacksmith here, he's got his hammer, he's working, and all he needs to do is just turn around and grab that handle and pull down on it. So that's part of the shop. It has a workbench with tools and projects sitting on the bench. It has a vise that's the sort of unique vise that blacksmiths use. It's got an anvil on a stump. It's got a quenching barrel. It's got uh, some bar and rod stock that's sort of leaning up against the wall. Um, and it has a blacksmith we call the weary blacksmith. He's wiping his brow and he's got a hammer. And then we have an office set that has sort of the boss's desk, a big pedestal empire desk, and a bookcase and a safe and a couple of chairs in front of the desk and a swivel, the old-fashioned wooden swivel chairs that
Yeah.
you may have seen. Yeah, so that's the office set. Then we have a cabin set, and it's been several years now. I teased the image of an old prairie cupboard or a big, Irish style Kentucky cupboard with the like a hutch, But
Yeah.
that's where you kept your cooking supplies and your bowls and your plates and really everything. It was sort of it was your kitchen. So we've got
Right.
one of those, and like a bunkhouse table and some chairs that are the ladder back pole constructed chairs, and a bed that's constructed out of raw lodge pole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
And then
cool.
the final one is um, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, the barbershop set is getting a facelift. So the
Oh, nice.
barbershop interior, so it's all going to be in resin. And
I need to get that set for my brother, who is a barber.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll the Barbasol can sitting on next to the mirror is features prominently in that set. The new addition to this set is a certain individual getting a haircut who might or might not have a pistol underneath his cape.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Nice.
that's going to be one that he'll probably be available all by himself as an STL as well for people to catch up who already have the barbershop set that we've been selling.
Nice. Nice. His cat said, "Thanks for your thoughts and plans. We all have vices."
Yeah.
It says, John over at Joy of Wargaming says that blacksmith sounds like it could be used in a lot of different genres. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure the basic gear didn't change that much over time.
No, from probably about, I would say, 1600s on is all about the same. Blacksmith is a blacksmith. I mean, and Paul Beckus is announced. He gives us a wave. Hi, Paul. I hope you're feeling well. Doing good. Now, so all of these room sets, for lack of a better term, are any of those going to be available as STLs, or are they going to end up being just pre-made models?
Those will be STLs.
Okay.
Yeah, I want them available in both formats. I'll have to go back and catch up the older ones because the older ones contain a lot of digitally designed stuff, but a few items that weren't digitally designed. For instance, the haystacks, I didn't design them digitally. I did it the old-fashioned way with putty.
Yeah.
So those, but that's an afternoon project to make haystacks for STL.
Yeah.
That's not brain surgery.
Reese wants to know, ever think of a chuck wagon? Well,
yes.
Funny you say that.
I'm pretty far along on a chuck wagon, actually. In fact, the body of the chuck wagon is pretty much done digitally. It's the hoops and the partially draped cover that I hadn't quite decided how I wanted to do it. But that stuff like that, you used to have to sit and wait for a way to produce it. And of course, with STLs, you no longer have to worry about that.
Yeah.
We'd look at a set like that and go, okay, part of this is going to have to be metal and part of it's going to have to be resin. And we're going to have to jump through all these hoops to get different kinds of mold made and involve more than one vendor and all this kind of stuff. Well, now you put it out as an STL and off you go.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you said that you're working on a war wagon?
Yes, the war wagon. I just started working on it about a week ago. Yeah, that's going to be cool. I desperately need a stagecoach. But I think much of what I'm doing for the war wagon will allow me to make a stagecoach after that pretty easily.
Right.
I had a design for a stagecoach that somebody made for me, but it was in his early days of learning how to do digital design, and he didn't really understand how thick things needed to be in order to cast them, because we were dealing with just casting then.
Right.
And so everything in the design was too thin, and there was no good way to just bulk it up. You kind of had to go back from scratch. So, yeah. So anyway, long story short, there'll be a chuck wagon sometime in the next year. There's going to be, hopefully the war wagon will come to fruition. I could never get past the idea that you just shoot the horses.
Right. Well, I mean, but you think about it. I mean, I guess there's a code.
There was no code. I did some research for at Little Wars, the War College they had at Little Wars. I did a presentation where I took 41 or 42 gunfights, real gunfights, and I came up with data points for each gunfight of things that happened. Did it involve alcohol? Did it involve a woman? Did it involve a card game? Did it involve this? Were there, one of them was, did anyone shoot the horses? In 20% of those gunfights, the horses were shot either to prevent escape or try to bring somebody down.
Yeah.
So if you want a stagecoach full of gold, you're going to shoot the horses.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, a great example is in Firefly. The TV series Firefly. It's it's cowboys in space, but I mean they're there and Mal, who's the primary, the main protagonist, is in a gunfight and he shoots a horse, lands on top of the main antagonist. It's
Yeah.
like, he shot the horse. But, when you got, about 1,200 pounds worth of flesh on top of you, you're not moving too fast and you're not shooting anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. The Hollywood has, I mean, earlier Hollywood, the 40s and 50s and 60s, added a veneer of respectability over what was really a pretty lawless, brutal
Oh, yeah.
environment.
I mean, the Wild West got its name the Wild West for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Reese says, takes a big slug to drop a horse. Well, I mean,
They had big slugs.
yeah. I mean, you think about it, the small pistol was a 45. That's got some stopping power to it. Paul Beck says, would these 3D files be able to be shrunk down to 15 millimeter for printing? I would suspect so.
Yeah, they are. The issue there is that if something's designed for 28 millimeter, when it's 15 millimeter, yeah, you may be able to print it, but it might be extremely flimsy because a lot of things might be too thin to be handled because they weren't
Right.
designed to be. So you'll see with STLs for wargaming, a lot of times historical wargaming, a lot of times you'll see them advertised as for 15 millimeter or 6 millimeter, and then you'll look at them and they're pretty chunky, and that's the reason. Material limitations have always been a problem with manufacturing wargame figures. This is how we got to heroic scale, was because if you want a gun that doesn't break in half, the hands that hold the gun have to be big enough. And you can't just have big hands on a figure. Now you got to have feet and a head to match the big hands.
Right.
And then you can't have a big head, feet, and hands and skinny arms and legs. So before you're done, you get the basic War Games Foundry sort of proportions, which I like personally,
Yeah.
and they've all become sort of the aesthetic in historical wargaming anyway, and have really endured for a long time. But it all goes back to the manufacturing requirements.
Very true. So, and I know you've talked about this with us previously on the War Room, but what got you interested, for some of my newer viewers? What got you interested in the Wild West? What about the Wild West just triggered you to be, you know what, that's what I'm going to study? Because
Well,
you're not
yeah.
just going out there making cowboys and whatnot. You've studied this.
Yes, I
I
have.
mean, you probably know more about the Wild West than any other person I know. So what got you to where you are today?
Well, okay. So first, I have to explain that I'm not a big movie. I do all these movie characters, and a lot of I've seen most of the I've seen most of the programs that I've sculpted figures to resemble, but I'm not a movie aficionado. So my perspective on the Old West is drawn more from history than from the movies. If I had my druthers, I would just be sculpting the historical characters.
Right.
Um, but we have fun with the movie stuff. Everybody has fun with that. That's when you're playing a game, you want to have that fun doing that kind of role playing. But no, I grew up. I'm a country boy. I grew up in Western Illinois, out in the country. Didn't grow up in a town. I grew up in the country, near a little town called Victoria, Illinois, and my family was from around a little place called London Mills and another place called Abingdon, which were rural areas, farming areas out in Illinois. And my grandparents I was the youngest son of a youngest son, which made my grandparents born before 1900. You might think from my youthful appearance that I might not have a grandparent born before 1900, but in fact I do. So I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, who was born in 1898, farm woman. Um, and had lots of stories. Um, I learned about the old days. I learned. Um, uh, I just became sort of fascinated with the horse and buggy days, and there were some rough and tumble stories. And my great grandfather Jerry White used to travel out to the Texas Panhandle to buy cattle and bring them back to Illinois to feed them out.
Yeah.
And he would get in all kinds of escapades out there. He got in a fight in a saloon, and his buddy got sliced across the belly with a knife.
Ooh.
Survived and used to show the scar to my dad and his friends. It was right across his belly button. Um, so yeah, and I'm our family farm where my great grandfather grew up was, I don't know, 15 miles as the crow flies from where Wyatt Earp was born in Illinois, Monmouth.
Yeah.
So I know these people. I know them. I know what kind of people they are.
Yeah.
Um, I think John Wayne was a pretty good example of how these guys were, how the older generation was where I came from. Um, I just I really got a sense of it. And then you know, it's hard to explain why anybody gravitates towards a particular thing. I spent a lot of time traveling out west over the years. My wife and I did a lot of camping and in places like New Mexico and Colorado up in the mountains. Visited places like Lincoln, New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably the best preserved. I won't call it a ghost town because it's fully occupied, but it's no bigger than it was when Billy the Kid was there. It's just so, I think it's sort of a historic district,
Yeah.
but it's all the buildings are there, and it's right along a road near Ruidoso, New Mexico. So yeah, I don't know. I just latched onto it. I have a lot of other interests. I don't, as I say, I don't watch a lot of movies. You're looking at a person who's never watched Game of Thrones, not because I object to it, just because it was a lot of time. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And you're also looking at somebody who's tighter than the bark on a tree, and I don't pay for a lot of expensive streaming services. And I'd love to watch The Mandalorian, but I'm not paying for Disney Plus. You got to be kidding me.
Well, good news is, um, it looks like they might be bringing that out on DVD
Oh, yeah, now
at
see, there you're
least.
talking. Now you're talking my
Yeah.
language.
Now they're not going to go so far back as VHS, but
Well, they just don't know quality, you know?
yeah, right. Oh, um, s- so what are some of the things you say that Hollywood is kind of polished up the rough edges?
Yeah.
Um, what's how did they do with Tombstone? I mean,
Perfect. Tombstone.
it's
Tombstone
one of the
is,
better ones.
oh, geez, yeah. Tombstone. I'll tell you when you now, of course, like any historical fiction, or I won't call it historical fiction, like any um, biopics or historical depictions, um, they condense events, they change them, they make them a little
Sure.
more dramatic. And it's the same way with Young Guns. It's like that's not what happened. Well, it didn't happen like that, but that's what happened.
Right.
That's my
Yeah.
saying for it. Um, they took a lot of liberties, but at the end, it's one of those. If you know the history, you watch that movie and you hear lines spoken that you know are spoken and historically, and see things happen. It just gives you chills. It sends a chill down your spine, thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm watching that happen." And that's how it happened. There are several just exact quotes in there from court testimony about the gunfight at the OK Corral. One of them is when Ike Clanton's trying to Ike Clanton is begging for his life and saying, "I'm not armed," and Wyatt says, "The fighting is commenced. Get to fighting or get away." And that was part of court testimony. He said that. Um,
Cool.
Doc Holliday said, "You're a daisy if you do." He actually said, "You're a daisy if you have," because what was said to him was, "I have gotten you now." And he said, "You're a daisy if you have." So Yeah, no, Tombstone's a great example. The costuming was perfect. Uh,
Yeah,
the Kevin Costner Wyatt Earp, the costuming was a good 10 years off. But Tombstone nailed it. So yeah, when you look at movies, I think one of the things that has to be taken into consideration if you're watching a Western, you have to know that sometimes Westerns aren't really meant to be taken literally as a historical depiction. They're used in order to as a theatrical piece of cinema that's riffing off of something else. Like for example, the Magnificent Seven, which is an awesome movie. It's way ahead of its time and so enjoyable to watch because it doesn't feel like you're watching an old movie. It moves. It doesn't have those long silences, dead periods, and long shots like a lot of the old movies do. But when you're watching like the Magnificent Seven, that was actually um, that that was a tribute to that famous Japanese, the Seven Samurai.
right.
So they weren't trying to make it historically accurate. They were making an allegory. So it has to be understood. Same way with the spaghetti westerns. They were in no way, shape, or form trying to portray the real Southwest during the Civil War. If they were, they did a very bad job of it.
Sure.
But they were creating this almost fantasy environment, science fictiony fantasy environment where the man with no name, uh, no one was ever like him in the Old West.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
but some, yeah, like Lonesome Dove, fantastic depiction of how things were in those days. Some of the new ones, once we start getting the influence of the over the top pyrotechnic sort of approach to action, um, like the newer Magnificent Seven. I didn't watch the whole movie, but I watched a few scenes of it, and appealing, nice, yeah, fun, good guy flick. But honest to goodness, the gunfight scene I saw, there's just dozens and dozens of bad guys, and they're mowing them down. And I'm like, this is not a Vietnam War movie, this is a Western gunfight. The old Westerns were really dramas; they weren't action movies.
Yeah.
You think about the difference between a drama and an action movie.
Yeah.
And so you think about John Wayne's movies, how much action was in them really? A lot of it was watching the Duke on screen was what was so interesting. And they were dramatic. There were gunfights in them, but they weren't long extended NFL events, you know.
Right. Got a couple of comments here. Chuck says my favorite Western is The
Yeah.
Searchers.
And The Searchers again, once again, misunderstood movie greatly. I can't quote it off the top of my head. I think there's an ancient Greek. I think it's ancient Greek. Look it up, Google it. Maybe somebody will find it in the comments. Play or piece it was sort of inspired by. And when you look at the characters in that, you're looking at depictions of that, especially John Wayne's character, being this man outside of society,
Mm-hmm.
never could go back to society after the things that happened in that movie. Um, kind of, yeah,
Yeah, and I find what's interesting, and we'll hit some more of these comments here in just a second. What I find interesting is some of the best movies, dramas, comedies, whatever, are retelling of Greek classics.
oh yeah. I mean, the Odyssey over and over again.
Oh
Brother,
yeah,
where art thou?
oh yeah.
The Cyclops being the
I
one-eyed
yeah,
man,
I love that movie, and it is picked right off of the Odyssey. Um, the
getting it.
other one is the other really good movies are retelling in a different way Shakespeare.
Yes, yes.
Um, Now there are some that are direct, Romeo and Juliet, et cetera, and so forth. But West Side Story is Romeo and
Is
Juliet.
Romeo and Juliet? Yeah,
When
yeah.
you look at it like that, or the teen movie from the '90s, 10 Things I Hate About You, is Taming of the Shrew.
It almost rhymes too.
Yeah.
Maybe it does rhyme.
So yeah, it's interesting that some of the best dramas and comedies go back to, you know,
Take their inspiration. Why reinvent the wheel? And
yeah,
you have Joseph Campbell's theories about, the basic stories in human societies. All these stories that are deep and ancient. Things like
right,
Star Wars is the hero's journey.
yeah,
And the development of the hero and so forth.
exactly,
Um, Most of Clint Eastwood remakes of samurai movies. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'm not aware of all of it, but yeah, I'm sure you're right. Always aim for the
Uh,
heart, Ramon.
Reese wants to
Have,
know if you've seen the new True Grit or not.
haven't seen it. I've heard lots of good things about it.
I have too, but I have a hard time setting the Duke aside.
Well, I don't think I think he made his own character for it too. And
Yeah,
yeah, I've heard really good things about it. I
oh
would
yeah,
like to see it. I just don't get around to seeing movies. Like, I feel like, here's the way this always goes. So someone will say, and I'm just going to make up a name of a movie. They'll say, have you seen Star Bashers? And I'll be like, no, I've never seen. Like, you haven't. The next question, the second question is, you haven't seen Star Bashers? And I'll say,
yeah,
no, I just never saw it. What do you think the third one is? You have to see Star
yeah,
Bashers.
yeah.
And I hear those three questions on a weekly basis. I've never seen Back to the Future.
So
We'll just let that one sit there for a
yeah.
minute.
So this would be I would like to at some point in time. I hope you get to watch all three of them because I have questions for you about
Which ones?
the third one, which is in the Old West.
Wait a minute.
Back,
I did see that one. I did see
you did
that
see
one,
Back to the
but I
Future
remember
3.
very little about it. I did see it. That's the other thing about me. When I see movies, something about my memory says that's not important. Don't remember that. And unless I've seen it multiple times, I can't remember
Yeah.
half the stuff that happens in these movies. Uh,
Paul Bexa says my favorite is Magnificent Seven,
oh man,
and
yeah,
Unforgiven a close second.
two awesome movies. Yeah, and Unforgiven. Clint Eastwood looked at that script and said, he saw it years before he made it, and he said, I will make this someday, and it will be my last Western. And he set it aside, and then he came back and made it, saying, this puts a period at the end of my Western career,
Yeah,
because it was so brutally honest, and things just didn't go the way you thought they would go. And this is what a revenge story would actually be like if you lived this out in real life. This is how it would really go. You would murder a man in cold blood and leave him laying in the middle of a feedlot or wherever he was, and you would feel, if you weren't a sociopath, you would instantly regret it.
yeah, yeah.
And that
Um,
was something. Which he turned
Reese,
out to be a sociopath in the end.
there you go. Regarding New True Grit, Reese says it's closer to the book and shows Arkansas and Oklahoma well.
Hey, Reese, have you read Gone to Texas that Josie Wales was based on? Because that's a pretty fascinating read. The original by Forrest Carter, and yeah, that was quite interesting. And the movie followed the book pretty well, I want to say, although the book was far more brutal. Another one that's pretty brutal, and it was the book for the book of The Shootist. The Shootist was based on a book. The book was written by an MD, physician. Now, he had only written, he had won Pulitzer Prizes in the past. This was the only Western he ever wrote, was The Shootist. And in the book, every wound somebody receives, including the guy climbing out of the window that he shot, the would-be assassin that he shot in the middle of the night, he described it in gory detail, each one of the wounds and what that bullet did to the person's body, in medical terms, mixed with some poetic license, which was pretty effective at creeping you out. And so when I designed the black deck, I wanted to evoke some of that feel, that when the person gets shot, it isn't just torso 3 points. It is.
Oh yeah,
Here's
I
what happens to you when you get
I
shot like
remember
that.
I remember the black deck. It's
You hear the bone snap.
it can be gruesome, boys
Yeah.
and ladies, if you're out there. The author of that book is Glendon Swarthout.
I've seen that name. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I probably read something by Glenn. Oh yeah, the Shootist. You're saying his name? Yeah, his name.
Yeah.
The author of the Shootist. Yeah, that was his name.
Yep. He also wrote the book Where the Boys Are.
That might have been the Pulitzer Prize winner. I'm not sure.
They made a movie out of it. That let's see who was in it. Connie Francis, Dolores Hart, Paula Prentice, George Hamilton, Yvette Mimo, Jim Hutton, and Frank Gorshin. There you go. Comedy.
Well, they had a guy who was in Batman, so it couldn't be half bad. What was he, the Riddler?
Yes. Yeah. He was the Riddler. Chuck says a movie way ahead of its time is Sergeant Rutledge.
I'm not familiar with it.
Neither
Again, I mean, I'm talking about some movies I have seen. I don't watch many movies, and I haven't seen many of the classic.
Yeah. And then Reese says, I'm an Ozarker, so I absorb all things Trans-Mississippi. Also read The Shootist.
Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about, especially in the final gunfight. Oh my gosh.
It's
it's chilling.
Yeah. So the wild, I guess to me, a lot of times, a lot of people aren't really. I don't think just in passing, many people understand that, a lot of people think the Wild West was a really long time ago. And in many cases, it's, occurrences less than 100 years ago could still be considered Wild West if you're in the right part of the country.
Yeah, if you're down in rural, if you're down in New Mexico or Arizona, it was still pretty wild. It got into the labor movement and some of the strikes and some of the Pinkertons going in, and there was the cavalry was called out. There was still cavalry on horseback based in Fort Robinson, Nebraska.
Yeah.
In around the turn of the century, and they galloped out to put down a strike in a mine somewhere. I went to Fort Robinson during a vacation one time. So yeah, the stuff that we consider Wild West really. But if you saw the story, the Kevin Costner movie recently about Bonnie and Clyde, basically that guy Frank Hamer, he was he is quite likely one of 2 or 3 people that the Lone Ranger was based on. One of them being Bass Reeves, the Oklahoma lawman.
I am surreptitiously related to Hamer.
You are?
Yeah. Let's see. My mom to my granddad, his brother, a cousin of mine is married to a Hamer.
Okay.
So it's by marriage, but I'm related to Frank Hamer. Very, it's a very circuitous route to get there, but so it's.
There's no fortune at stake for you to claim, so
no, none whatsoever. So
or just show up with some lawyers in a briefcase.
Yeah,
asking for your money.
Yeah. His cat says, "What about F Troop? I grew up on that show."
I've seen a few episodes, but it was not. I'm 56, but it wasn't even being shown on syndication when I was a kid. So
yeah. And Paul says, "Need to do some F Troop figures for some good fun times."
You have not been following the Facebook Knuckleduster page because your first one, Larry Storch, is in the first set we have of Hollywood Troopers, which will be released next week at Historicon.
Here,
So
let's
if you pop over there and take a look, you'll see there
right
we
there,
go. So you'll see Trooper Stark.
right there.
He's your man right there. So you got Trooper Stark, and then you've got I will be doing personalities that will involve a Forrest Tucker, allegedly, and as we say when these. I can neither confirm nor deny that Trooper Stark resembles someone from F Troop. So,
Right.
yeah, but that set is the first of a series of Hollywood cavalry, and as I've said on the Facebook page a few posts ago, it's the uniform that never existed.
Right.
Skin tight trousers, jack boots, the ubiquitous suspenders and yellow necktie and flipped up Stetson. So
Yeah.
never existed. Sorry guys, but it's a lot of fun, and that's why they're called Hollywood Cavalry Troopers.
Right.
Someday I will make historical cavalry troopers, but I think people have responded very positively to this. There's a lot of people who have been chomping at the bit. I'm working on the mounted versions right now.
Nice.
And then we'll go on to the next. There'll be a set that has your Henry Fonda and John Wayne and Forrest Tucker and some other stuff, and there'll be a Guidon handler and a bugler and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. Now the one set that I need to get is from the set you have that's not Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Pistols.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a hoot. That was a lot of fun.
That is my all-time, and people will argue with me that it's not a Western. It absolutely is a Western.
Yeah.
Probably more so than a lot of other Westerns out there. I love that movie. It was one of my mom's favorites. It's one of my favorites. I need to get that. I need to get that set because it's too fun. The fact that you've got both the mounted and unmounted, and Mongo is one of the characters, and you have it mounted on the big Brahma bull.
The Brahma bull. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
that was a lot of fun to make, definitely.
Let's see here. Reese says, yeah, Pancho Villa at Columbus is 1916. I mean, that's what 104 years ago was all.
Well, so the thing about that is, I always want to, when I'm developing new products, I want to stay adjacent to what I'm doing now. If I wander very far away, then it's a big project. So if I was to do Pancho Villa, now we're talking about a historical wargaming figure line, like that Foundry or Perry or somebody would make. So now we're talking, I need to do everything. So I have to do all the troop types, all the thing, Pershings, people, everybody. So that's a huge commitment.
Maybe someday.
I don't want to just dabble in Pancho Villa. But what I would do is, let's say, the Wild Bunch, and have some Federales and some Gatling guns and some of that stuff.
I tell you who would go all in if you did that, and that's McMurray.
Yeah, is that like his favorite movie?
No, it's just it's the off the wall kind of around the corner type stuff. You know about the Zimmerman letter. It's during World War I when the Germans were hoping to get Mexico to invade the United States. So, bringing Mexico into World War I on the German side. He has designed an entire game scenario based off of that one letter. And that's, Americans, against Mexican federales and whatnot. So, he'd be all in on that.
So, the American troops to get for that are my good buddy and actually one of my vendors. The Phalanx Consortium makes the Blood and Valor World War I figures, which are the best I've ever seen. And I know how much research he did. They're really accurate.
Yeah.
And a shout out to Chris if you're out there listening. Phalanx Consortium are great people, and they make really good products. Hey, I want to also mention I will be at Twisted Lords convention. It used to be called TwisterCon. Twisted Lords convention in Oklahoma City. Not this weekend, but the following weekend, the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th in Oklahoma City. This is a combination of two older conventions, one of which was Warlord USA's sort of home convention, and
Yeah.
the other one being TwisterCon. And so the two of them are together, Twisted Lords. I will be at the pardon me. I'll be at the Warlord USA booth. I won't have my own booth, but they have my stuff, and I'll be there doing demos. I'll bring my demo board,
Very cool.
and so we'll be having a good time. And also, I want to mention that Historicon, the Phalanx Consortium, will be there with my stuff. They're the last few times they've had a nice up front and center booth, easy to find, big booth. They'll be there, so you can come by, and they will have, I think, 8 copies of the Hollywood Cavalry ready to go.
Oh, very nice.
These are all, and as I touched on before, these are the dismounted ones. The mounted ones will come next. I'm working on them right now.
Right.
So that's.
Speaking of upcoming events, just as a reminder, the last weekend of July, so 3 weekends from now, we've got Battles and Brews in Independence, Missouri. That's Jay Wiley and Wiley Games event. Have they said Adepticon 2023 yet?
I think they have, and I saw an email, and I don't remember what the date is, but I know it's out there. And I want to make sure that I just give a little respect to Jay Wiley and all the fantastic work he's done. He's got great games. Fistful of Lead I always recommend for larger games than ours. You know, Gunfighter's Ball is typically for just 3 or 4 or 5, 6 characters. Totally. Like on a street corner. Yeah, it's not designed for like a big spread where you have a bunch of factions running around.
Right.
And so, but Jay's does very well with that. It's the one I always recommend when somebody wants to do something like that. And then the fact that he's done such a good job of sort of making a franchise out of his core mechanics. And so he has all these different genres. It's really cool. Really cool. Well-supported product line.
Yeah, I'm as the guys know, I'm a big fan.
It's like Marvel. It's like the Marvel universe. So, the Jay Wiley universe, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jay Wiley has taken care of me quite a bit. He designed my logo.
Nice.
Not Jay, and he supports me. I support him, and so the reason I was asking, because I know you go to Adepticon on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, March to Victory is going to fall on the same weekend as Adepticon again this year. But I would love to be able to hopefully get you out to Kansas City some point in time. We got recruits coming up in September, last weekend of September.
I mean, it's a possibility.
That'd be a perfect place for you to go ahead.
John is there with Warlord.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he'll be there with my stuff.
Yeah. So, since your stuff's already there,
all I have to do is show up. Just waltz in, sign a few autographs, and waltz out.
Exactly. So
say, so long, suckers.
Yeah. Now I went to TwisterCon. Oh man, 21 years ago, when it was first just kind of getting out of the gate. It was a good little convention then. I'm sure it's grown quite a bit. So yeah, if Reese, if you want to check that out, it's not too, Oklahoma City's not too far from you. Just a couple hours drive west of Arkansas there. So
I have such a large number of customers in Texas. I'm hoping that I know I will be seeing at least one of them. It's a guy named Jeff. Jeff, if you're watching, hi. Jeff's running some games at the convention. Jeff Key is his name. But he's running a Gunfighters ball game at the con. And so yeah, Texas folks, if you can make it up there, I'd love to see you.
Yep. Yeah. Reese came up to March to Victory this past March. It was good to meet him. Yeah, if you get the chance, Reese, definitely make it. He says, I know Oak City well. Might have to try to make it. Absolutely. Good times will be had by all. And he also says Cowboy Superstition is still standing about not wearing yellow. Wonder if that is why that's the only color bandana they could find.
Oh, so they got a deal on them, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
the set dresser, I mean, the costume superintendent or whatever got a deal on yellow bandanas.
Well, okay. I mean, they were in the cavalry, and the cavalry is
yellow is the piping
yellow
color.
Is their color,
right? Artillery's red and infantry is blue, right?
Exactly.
Blue.
Yeah. And what I always find interesting is what they say about first cav, the patch of the first cav. The gold shield with the black horse and the black diagonal stripe. I was like, it's the how they put it is the river they never crossed, the horse they never rode, the river they never crossed, and the color of their backs. Or color of their bellies. That's it.
Okay. Nice.
All right. So yeah. Any other thing game wise that you want to tell us about?
Yeah, so the pistol, as you know, we have a thing called the Pistolier deck, which is special abilities and traits. The second Pistolier deck, which the back will match, so you can shuffle the two together, but it's more special abilities. So it's 52 more special abilities. And we have some things in there. The first deck didn't have a lot of stuff pertaining to shotguns and rifles, so you've got a lot of things that are your basic. We have a thing called the Pistolier skill with a pistol, which is enhanced quick draw and shooting. We'll have that. I have new characteristics for rifles, for shotguns, also some quirky things for shotguns, like being able to load them really fast. Same way with the rifle, being able to load it really fast. There's a skill for cap and ball pistols, because Wild Bill Hickok, with his cap and ball navies, most people struggled with cap and ball pistols, because if you've ever fired one, they seem to only go off about half the time. And when they do go off, the cap falls down into the lock and you can't get you have to do this to get it to come out. But those who were good at it, like Wild Bill Hickok, was absolutely meticulous about his weapon. And he just kept it in pristine working order all the time. So there's ability for that. Then there's a lot of kind of humorous personality characteristics. One of them is nerve-wracking. So if you're a nerve-wracking character, everyone around you suffers a hindrance to their ability to shoot. Any ally near you, you're so distractingly awful to be around.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and then of course character deck 4. We have the booster packs for the character cards, and the fourth one is in development. The figures for it have been painted and photographed for the most part, and now I'm just bashing together the special abilities and making sure that everything makes sense and so forth. So
very good.
I think, and of course more figures coming down the line. I'm always working on new stuff, and there's with the suggestions I get from people, there's way more material than I think I could sculpt in a lifetime.
Very true. Very true. So, um, one. So just to reiterate, touching back on Gunfighter Royale, we're very close to
Yes.
having everything together to
Yes.
get fulfillment. Once
Gotta
that's
hold
all
it up.
together, it'll be on its way to those that have already backed it.
That's right.
Um, can people that are interested go and pre-order where
Yes. Yes. So
that,
go
that
to
did
the
not back it?
absolutely. So you go to the Kickstarter page for Gunfight Royale, and there's a blue or green button prominently located at the top near the top of the page that says pre-order. And click that, and it'll take you to essentially a shopping cart for pre-ordering the game. The pre-orders will stay live for probably a couple more weeks. When I get word that the delivery of everything I need is imminent, like within a week or two, then we're going to shut it down. We're going to check addresses, send out emails to make sure people's address hasn't changed, to give them an opportunity to update them. Then we're going to run the cards, and then we don't want to run the cards more than 30 days before we're confident that it will fulfill. So that's where we hold off on that until we know for certain that we're ready to start shipping. But once those cards are run, you'll know that this package is about to show up on your doorstep. And with I think 266 backers, I want to say. No,
221.
221, and then we have additional people who have joined in the pre-order.
Yep.
That's a reasonable number to have out pretty quickly. I think we'll be cranking out 10 to 20 boxes a day, heading out to people. Was a fairly compared to the. I don't know if any of you were in on the Gunfighters Ball Kickstarter, but this is a walk in the park to fulfill compared to that. We had for that Kickstarter, we borrowed space in our shop neighbor's unit to make an assembly line that ran the length of his unit. It's like imagine a warehouse building, and it was like on sawhorses. We had doors on sawhorses and box after box after box, and we would take a packing sheet and just walk down and pick things out of boxes. Now this is much simpler. There aren't that many accessories and so forth to it, which is a way of saying this will fulfill really quickly.
Yep. So also, if y'all want to see how the game is played and what's in the game, if you go to I posted the link, the Kickstarter link here.
Thank you.
If you go there, and if you don't get it from here, all you have to do literally is type in Kickstarter Gunfighter Royale. First thing that pops up on your search engine of choice. But there are from back in the War Room days, Matt and I and McMurray actually did a playthrough of the game, and God, we had a blast, and we laughed so hard, and we had literally it is the most fun I had had with a game in a very long time, because it was just so off the wall on some of the things. It's called Gunfighter Royale, but the final battle ended up between one of us with a hatchet, the other with an axe. It just you all have to watch it to get the full effect. Yeah, here are the levels. You could have just kicked in a buck to say, "Hey, this is cool." $45 is the loose cannon, gets you the game, the anti-hero exclusive character figure and cards. If you wanted to go even bigger, you got for $65 gave you the unlocked stretch goals. How did we do on the stretch goals?
Oh, we got all 9 of the expansion characters I had sculpted, which includes and then a bear.
Yeah.
And there was 2 versions of the bear. There was the cartoon bear, which is the main bear, and then there was one for Gunfighter's Ball, which was more realistic bear.
Yeah.
There was a there's a set of wooden. Okay, so here's the tokens.
Yeah.
This is one of the. It's my paint covered fingers I keep showing here. But anyway, so these there are wooden versions of these, which came as one of the stretch goals, I think. It's been a while now. It's been like a year, more than a year. Um, but yeah, we unlocked. I think the last thing we unlocked was a plastic organizer for inside the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, stretch goals in 28 millimeter. Okay,
Oh
if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
purchasing the 28 millimeter traditional figure add-on, you might want your stretch goals in 28 millimeter. At the end of the campaign, let us know which version the stretch goals you'd like. And that was, you could either have Gunfighter Royale characters, which are the
cartoon characters.
the cartoon characters, which I absolutely love, or you could have the original Gunfighter ball style characters.
Yeah.
And you can see here kind of the difference in the look, which both are great, but for the board game, the cartoon characters just, I don't know, makes more sense to me, to be honest.
I was hoping you'd say that because and what I found at Historicon last year when I demoed this, here we go, here's one of them, is that when you see them in context on the board, or if you can pick them up and handle them and stuff, then you get it. If you just see them abstractly, you just see a picture of it, you probably think they're bigger than they really are, for one thing. They're very delicate, and they're kind of, there we go. There's a prospector.
Yeah, they're perfect for the board game.
Plus,
Absolutely.
this board game is kind of madcap, as you mentioned. It's got some silly elements to it. It's really it captures the feel of the game quite well to have the cartoon characters.
I mean, I one of the nice things about the game is the random event deck.
Oh yeah.
And several times I was able to get the horse that my opponent was standing next to either kick them or bite them and cause damage.
A dirty trick deck.
Yes, the dirty trick deck.
So, for those who hadn't seen the demos or anything, this is so you've got a board. Instead of this all started because John Russell of Warlord USA came to me and said, if you could take Gunfighter's Ball and put it in a box as a board game, I could just sell these all day long.
Oh yeah.
And so instead of building terrain, all the terrain is right there in a map.
Yeah.
And so it's a move and shoot combat game first, but there are all these layers built onto that move and shoot combat game, which are the special characteristics of the characters, like a lot of games have, but then dirty tricks, found weapons and items. And some of the items are quite serious, good, weapons, but some of them are silly, like a bandana that you can use as a tourniquet, or a bottle of snake oil that might either cure you or kill you, depending on what you roll.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we followed the same logic of your health points are poker chips.
Yeah.
The dirty tricks are a lot of fun. And even after your character dies, you can still play the dirty trick cards that you accumulated during the game.
Oh,
so you're still in it, even after you're dead. You're still in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite equipment cards is the dress.
Yes, if you put the dress on, and you have to put it on out of sight of the enemy.
Right.
Then you show up, they don't know what you might just be some mom shopping on the boardwalk. They don't,
you can't be
assassinated from across the board.
Yeah, I think you got to be within,
I think it's 6 spaces.
It's pistol range.
And you can therefore ambush somebody.
Yeah.
Because they can't shoot you from a distance. And
And it hides everything.
yeah, it works like a trench coat would, because
Yeah.
you can maybe hide a weapon underneath there. I had uh, a a cop, a guy who was a retired cop, who was playing Gunfighter's Ball, and said, what you ought to add to this is visibility, is spotting. He goes, because when somebody's that far away, you can't necessarily tell if they're,
If they're
a
carrying or
hostile.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And so I thought, well, someday I probably will do that, have it at least as a house rule.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention the house for Gunfighter's Ball. There's a house rule book under development. It has been for a while, but I've been publishing it online in the group, putting it out one house rule at a time. And when we get them all done, it'll come out as a book.
Very cool. Well, Eric, excuse me, Forrest, I want to thank you for joining me tonight.
Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Guys, if y'all have not had a chance to go check it out, go check it out. Pre-order a copy. It's one of the, like I said, it is one of the most fun I've had playing a game in a very long time. You can get, and it will easily play 6 very easily. You could easily play 7, 8. If you got a lot of folks gathered around for a game night, this will take care of quite a few players at once. And this is one of the ones that's more fun with the more players you have, to be honest.
If you've
Because
ever, yeah, sorry,
you don't know who is out there and who's your friend and who's not. And even if they are your friend, it's all about that gold, baby. So once again, also, and just go check out his miniatures at just Knuckleduster Games. The regular Gunfighter's Ball miniatures are amazing. Such great characterful miniatures. In fact, at March to Victory, Jay Wiley just had the last bit of the original, not the original, but one of the last order that he had gotten from you a while back. He was doing a kind of a closeout, and my wife and I picked up 20 of them. So, because she said, I want to paint some cowboys. Come here. Pick which one.
Got 150 Gunfighter figures in the product line, so
Yeah,
ought to be able to find something.
Yeah, so we picked those up for her. I need to prime them up so she can paint. She's going to have some time to paint over the summer before school starts back up. So, but yeah, once again, thank you for coming in. And then, guys, later tonight or tomorrow morning, I will have a video commemorating my 200th subscriber. If you want to be part of the giveaway, I'm going to do it next week. So next Wednesday night, I'm going to do the drawing live. So on that video that's coming out next, just put in the shirt size you want, and that you want to be a part of it, and we'll get you going. So, all right. Well, with that, as always, until next time, we'll see you on the flip side.